I put a little line at the limit around on these hair rolls. I just spent 5 days with my grandson and their neighbor.
Uh-huh. Good afternoon, everybody. Prior to the start of our meeting today, we've got a very special proclamation, and I'd like to have Jonathan Gano come up. We've got, this is an Arbor Day, and he's going to be our arborist today, in charge of our city forests and urban canopy. So thank you for being here, sir.
I will do my best.
All right. At any rate, the proclamation reads as follows. The city of Des Moines strives to maintain a healthy, natural environment for its residents and guests. And I've got to tell you, a few times through the last few years, it's been a struggle with a derecho and all kinds of other things going, two derechos, sorry, and a tornado. So they have been busy, and I tell you, they've been doing a good job, but we need to give them more help. So urban trees help the city achieve the Guide DSM goals of sustainable community, livable community, and upgraded urban infrastructure. And whereas trees support the city's goals outlined in the Urban Forestry Master Plan by providing climate adaptation, greenhouse gas mitigation, green infrastructure, improved outdoor air and water quality, and enhanced business retention and development. And whereas the residents of Des Moines are embracing the opportunity to increase the urban canopy through the Growing Futures Planning Partnership, and whereas the city has been recognized as a Tree City USA for 30 years by the National Arbor Day Foundation, and recently as a Tree City World City. And whereas 2022 is the 150th celebration of Arbor Day, and the city desires to continue our reforestation and management programs toward ensuring the future of our urban forest trees. Now, therefore, I, the mayor, on behalf of our city council and the residents of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day, and urge our residents of Des Moines to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to plant, maintain, and celebrate our urban trees and woodlands. Jonathan, thank you very much for everything that you and your team does to support that. We'll get you want a quick picture? Okay, here we go. That was more than one, but that was good.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have our meeting start in just a few minutes. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our April 18th Des Moines City Council meeting. We just had our Arbor Day proclamation and want to thank our Parks Department and our arborists and all of our public works people who help us with that, and keep up the good work. Let's call this meeting to order, and I'll ask the clerk to please take roll.
County,
Here.
Boson,
Here.
Boss,
Here.
Shoemaker,
Here.
Westergaard,
Here.
Mandelbaum,
Here.
Gatto.
Here.
Your Honor, we have a quorum.
Item number 2 is approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended tonight. Consent agenda items 3 through 50. Item 4M was withdrawn, inspections are incomplete. Item 4O was withdrawn, inspections are incomplete. 4GG was withdrawn, application was withdrawn. Number 25, there's a correction. First bullet point was changed under Appendix E. And on the regular agenda items, item 52, there's a correction, requires 6 affirmative votes for passage due to opposition. With that,
Move approval.
All second.
all right. Yes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, item passes unanimously. Item 3 is approval of the consent agenda. Tonight, these are 3 through item 50. Item 4L, Councilmember Gatto abstains. Item 5, I'm voting no. Item 13, Councilmember Shoemaker is voting no. And item 45, Councilmember Shoemaker is asking to speak.
Move approval.
All second.
All right, ask everybody to vote.
Westergaard says yes.
All right, thanks, Linda.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right, that takes us to the hearing items. Tonight, for those of you who have your agenda, that starts with item 51. For the hearing items this evening, there are 3 zoning items, 51, 2, and 3. We also have 1 zoning ordinance amendment hearing or an AHU under Hud Hearing, 1 operational agreement hearing, and several public improvement hearings. As a reminder, for the zoning items only, which are, again, 51, 2, and 3, we will hear from the parties in interest first and then from the general public. The parties in interest, the zoning items include only the applicant and those within that 250 feet who received a notice sent for the city. All other parties in interest have commented. After they have, we will open it up for the members of the public to make germane comments. And again, I want to add, in recognizing the parties in interest who may speak in the zoning items, I will also ask everyone else not to step to the microphone unless they are a zoning applicant or, again, a party in interest within that 250 feet and receive that mailed notice. Anyone who approaches the mic before their time will be compared to that list. And if you're not on the list, you'll be required to leave the building and not be allowed to speak any further. So please wait until the general public is called for those zoning items. For the HUD hearing and the zoning amendment hearing, any person may make germane comments at not to exceed 1 minute per person to a maximum of 10 minutes per hearing, unless the hearing is ended sooner for failure to make a germane comment or when the comments cease. For the HUD hearing, HUD has already approved an agreement with the city for the amount of home Aarp funds that the city will receive. These funds were made available in the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 through HUD and are separate from the large award of the U.S. Treasury funds that may be used for multiple purposes. These funds are specifically to be used for the benefit of qualifying homelessness assistance and supportive services Germane comments are limited solely to the allocation of those funds as proposed by the Neighborhood Services Department following the consultation with a variety of agencies and associations that provide assistance to homeless individuals in our community. For the other hearing items tonight, any interested person may make germane comments, again, and not to exceed that 1 minute, to a maximum of 5 minutes per hearing unless the hearing is ended for the failure or public comments cease. As a reminder, on the public improvement hearings, only comments as to the plans, the specifications, form of documents, and the engineer's estimate and the low bidder designation will be considered germane. All other comments will be considered non-germane. All right, let's get started. Item 51 is on a request from John A. Getze III, who's the owner to rezone property located at 1022 Army Post Road from RX1 Mixed Use District to Limited RX3 for Mixed Use District to allow conversion of the existing building to a vehicle maintenance repair minor use. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above. Let's go ahead and ask if there's any parties in interest as the applicant in the room. Don't see the applicant. Is there anyone within that 250 feet who's received their notice? And again, we'll ask them to step to the microphone at this time. All right, is there anyone who would want to make germane comments from the general public? We'll open it up for general public. All right, seeing none, could we have a motion? And this item's for 1022 Army Post Road.
Mr. Mayor, I mean, I'm not crazy about this land use and adding a vehicle maintenance or repair on a corridor, and I really wish the applicant would have been here or would have reached out. In this particular instance, it looks like the bays where the vehicles will be stored is right next to some vacant commercial storefront, and that to me seems like an incompatible use. So my inclination would be to, or my motion, I guess, would be to deny.
I'll second it. I agree with Josh. The use of allowing 3 vehicles plus the one in the bay, I don't, there's like almost like a driveway and then the strip area. I'd hate to see 3 cars that don't work be put there. It's going to clutter that. It's not the right use for that building. So I'm happy to support Councilman Mandelbaum's motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Ask everybody to vote.
Westergaard says yes.
Yes to deny.
Yes to deny.
Yes to deny.
All right, it's 6 yes, 1 pass, the motion carries. Item 52, on a request from PPDSM LLC, Adam Sheeran is the officer to amend Plan DSM, creating our tomorrow plan to revise the future land use classification from low-density residential to neighborhood mixed use, and to rezone the property located at 2404 Westover Boulevard from N3B Neighborhood District to RX1 Mixed Use District to allow the development of a 5-unit townhome requires 6 affirmative votes for passage due to opposition. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above. B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the applicant, requires 6 votes. Let's open it up and first ask parties of interest, either the applicant or those within 250 feet. Applicant? You got it.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and councilmen and women. Thank you for your time. I've purchased the property at 2404 Westover, and I'm proposing a townhome development there. I had the neighborhood meeting, and a neighbor, Miss Shoemaker, was there along with the neighborhood president and Miss Margaret, the lady to the north, and she's been there since 1952. And she was just a little concerned with, the fencing and stuff. But the property's been vacant for 13 years, and I've met with her in her house, and she's excited for the project. She just wanted to know some details about some fencing and stuff. This is very similar to the project at Franklin and Merle Hay that Stambro did by the Video Warehouse, that 5-unit building there. And it'd be a 2-story building. And just kind of the missing middle piece on the west edge of Des Moines. So if you got any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone? Okay. All right. Adam, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, any parties in interest? Those within 250 feet? Anyone? Seeing none, let's open it up to general public. General public want to make any comment on this? Germane comments again. Step up. See one.
Taylor Weber, Ward 3. We heard the buzzword missing middle again, so I know it's come up at recent council meetings, and I haven't been able to look in to see what the actual rates are of the homes we're purchasing here, but love to hear more on just like what the price range is for the units you're looking to build, and is it actually affordable for people in the area, that sort of stuff. So just if you had any more details on what type of units we're going in and price range and that kind of stuff, that'd be awesome.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Wyatt Archer, Ward 3. My wife and I are currently renters in Ward 3, and we're looking for townhomes kind of in places that are not just in downtown. So I think I'm pretty excited that if there was an opportunity for other places within Des Moines that had kind of like the missing middle options. We don't really want a big yard or whatnot, so I think this would seem like a reasonable thing. Thank you.
All right, Indira?
We could have that discussion about the price ranges. Was the question that was posed? Yeah.
So at this point, this is going to be a for-rent product, especially with the rising interest rates. The Stambro property is renting for $1,700 a month. These units are going to probably appraise around $280, I would imagine. I'm trying to build them as affordable as I possibly can. Still using good products. We've got, real stone on the exterior, LP siding, things of that nature. It's not going to be a vinyl siding product, but 2-story, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, all electric product. So,
I know that you had talked about having affordable projects in the future. This wasn't one of them, however.
I've met with Eric Burmeister with Polk County Housing Trust Fund, and they have some interest in buying down this rent.
For this project specifically?
This one might be on the cusp of a little too expensive because they pay down 10 years worth of rent to get down to that 700 mark. So they'd have to buy down $1,000 a month. And they're more interested in if I can get it down to like a $1,400 a month product. And I just can't get there with this one. But
What's the barrier to that?
the barrier is just, the market, what it's demanding, and the price of things. It's just crazy right now. The materials, the labor, everything's just, as you know, the key word is inflation. But
If we were looking at like vinyl siding instead of like the stone exterior, would we be getting there potentially? Because that would fit in with the neighborhood as well.
yeah, potentially, it's just a long-term hold, so the vinyl siding for me isn't real, attractive. But I can still circle back and talk to Eric and see if he'd be willing to take a couple units and buy them down. Absolutely.
In relation, because you have a lot of projects coming up, like what projects do you have planned that would be in that range for the trust fund to buy down?
I mean, I have one on Southwest 9th, but I can't buy the house next door. I mean, that was the one you and I had talked about, but it's just, she's shutting the door in my face. I can't get it purchased. So I've got a house on Hillside 9th that is just sitting there right now, and it's just
Boarded up, correct?
I know. I'm trying. I mean, yeah, it's boarded up. So I want to tear it down, but I can't. And I mean, it's been a year. So it's frustrating. So that would have been where that project would have went.
Okay.
8 unit there.
I guess in having like struggles in getting that affordable project that you had planned and maybe not being able to move forward with that if you're not able to purchase the property next door, like I would like to see you taking on some affordable projects. I know we had talked about that when we were talking about this at the neighborhood meeting. And so if this one was an option where you could get it to that price point where it would be able for Polk County Housing Trust Fund to buy down the rent, make some units affordable, if not all of the units affordable, I would be very happy with that. Otherwise, with this project, I think it is a good location for it. We have been having that conversation about the middle density development, and like I said, I think this is going to start happening in all of our neighborhoods. I think it's good for it to be happening in all of our neighborhoods, and this is a really like kind of non-controversial area for it to happen because of the location. If you can see on the agenda item, it's kind of like right across from a parking lot that is already lit. It's right on the corner of like a huge corridor. There's hopefully going to be more development happening in that lot behind the laundromat potentially. It sounded like they were looking to sell anyway, and so there might be more development in that area. But I'm supportive of the zoning in this area, personally. I would like to see the price come down, though.
Yeah. Thank you.
Real quick, could I just make a quick comment? Just,
Yeah.
And I'm supportive of this project. I guess my biggest concern, Adam, and when you came in and when I seen this on the agenda, I was like, are we trying to bite off more than we can take on in our city? Because I want to make sure, you were here last week and the week before. You've got another big project that you've been working on, and I think it's going fairly well. I just want to make sure that you can complete some of these, and now you're talking about doing other projects with Polk County Housing Trust and things like that. And I want you to be successful, but as we've got to answer to everybody out here and everyone, all of our constituents, they have the same concerns that I've heard multiple times, especially after we approved the Oaks on Fleur project. And so I want to make sure that we continue to work towards what you've already got zoned and what we're already working on. I think this is an appropriate use of this property. I think it's a good spot. I think it would be beneficial to our community, but I just want to make sure that we're able to get some of these things finished, I guess is my biggest concern.
I understand your concern. I've acquired some property for this, this townhome development, and, everything's good. Everything's organized properly. Elevate's selling. We've got the whole row sold. I've got 2 end units sold on second row. I've got bidding wars on the upper unit behind the bar.
So that means the 508 is going to be coming down soon.
508s, as soon as I deliver the upper unit in June, we're paying off the 508 and it's coming down. So services are cut to it.
Okay.
And 508's coming down.
So we got a ton of graffiti on that building.
I painted it.
And I know
I painted all the graffiti. It's not on there anymore.
Okay. All right.
I listen to you guys. So, but that's coming down. We're going through the site plan process on that site right now. And we're getting foundations in. We did run into some instability on the hill. That was a shock, or not really a shock, but I guess.
Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be. But we've got to do some shoring, so that's slowing us down a little bit on that hillside. But we're just moving forward on that. And Elevate's going well. Fleur, I'm gonna slow down on Fleur and not put too much there, just to really plan it right. And there's a lot of exposure there, so I'm going to slow down on Fleur a little bit. And Westover, this site's prepped, ready to go.
So this site's shovel ready, and you'll.
Well, it's got some demo, but it's flat.
But your timeline will be moving to
Timelines,
this one.
probably, yeah, this year, breaking ground. Yep.
And so what is the timeline for the Oaks? You say you're going to slow down?
You know, I'm going to just prep the site. I want to get the retaining wall in, work with the city. We've got some storm sewer stuff. I want to get the retaining wall all in, the sidewalks all in, get the fire hydrant moved, you know, get the pads ready, house out. I mean, it's,
So did you purchase the house to the north?
Yeah, that's
Not-
been-
But not to the west, the white one?
no.
And have you been trying to purchase the house to the west or no?
Nah, I think initially when I was in their living room, I did, but I don't need it.
Okay.
So it's just
That's what I thought.
the houses to the north would be my main thing there.
Okay.
But yeah, so, and Westover, you know, there's more happening at Westover. I mean, I'm buying the piece, Jim Sinclair owns the piece behind there. So I'm working with him,
The big
the big
RX
piece.
lot?
So yeah, so
Okay.
I'm coming back in for a land use amendment on that.
Okay.
So that's going to be, the whole piece is going to be developed there.
So you're planning on developing that lot as well? I know you have your eyes on some other projects in my ward, like in the Franklin area as well.
Yeah, the Franklin area, but that's pretty far out.
Yeah. But
Yep.
you have that kind of on your radar?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Do you have a motion?
I'll second it if you move.
Yeah. I did want to say just one thing on this discussion, and I'm glad that you brought it up. It's one of the not in favor responses that was brought in was too many rentals in the neighborhood, many are poorly managed. My concern is just with you doing all the development work and then also managing the properties, especially when you have these more rental properties. I just want to make sure that we end up with properties that are well managed, that are good to their tenants and things like that. So I just want that to be something that we're thinking about
Sure,
when we're doing this as well. I just want to make sure that they're well managed as well.
yes.
But I would make a motion to approve 52. And was there a second one on there?
Yeah.
A and B.
A and B, yeah, 52A and B.
I'll second it.
Indira, I might also say that it's my understanding that Plan and Zone passed it,
Yes, yes.
so. Linda?
Linda votes yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 53 is on a request from Angel Groff, as the owner, to amend the Plan DSM, creating our tomorrow plan to revise the future land use classification from low-density residential to industrial use and to rezone property located at 2200 Easton Boulevard from N3A Neighborhood District to I1 Industrial District to allow the use of the property for a vehicle maintenance and repair major use. Plan and Zoning Commission recommends denial. Choose alternative A or B. A would be to deny, or B is approve and continue the hearing to May 9th of 2022 and direct city manager and the legal department to prepare the necessary legislation. It requires 6 affirmative votes. First, we'll ask if there's any parties in interest in, including the applicant. Is the applicant here? Are you the applicant? Yes. Okay. Step to the microphone.
Oops.
There you go. That's
Sorry.
good. That's the best way. Just you can hold right onto it.
Okay. I was request to continue to May 9.
Is the applicant, you'd like to continue this item?
Yes.
Okay. The applicant is asked for a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to make any comment on this one? The applicant is asked to continue. Seeing none?
Is that to continue to the next meeting?
Until, yes, May 9th. I think that's what she asked for, correct?
Okay.
And this is Westergaard, just to be clear, we're not approving this. It is simply a continuance.
Only continuing it, Linda.
The hearing will be continued, Linda.
All right.
You voting in favor?
Westergaard votes no.
Okay, that would be 6.
Your Honor, that's 6 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
It will occur on mainland.
All right, item 54. This is on the approval of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, Home Investment Partnerships Program, American Rescue Plan, Allocation Plan, Home, ARP. Council Communication number 22-182. Mr. Manager, did you want to make any comment on this one? All right. We'll open it up and ask for any germane comments from the general public. Anyone like to speak on this? Okay.
Taylor Weber, Ward 3. So this is for $3.5 million of this funding. I guess I'm a little disappointed to see we have such a high percentage. We're hitting the maximums for operating and administration and planning expenses. Over $550,000 for administration and planning, and over $177,000 for nonprofit operating. That's a lot of money that could be used to directly help people. We also aren't using anything for tenant-based rental assistance that I think, as we just heard in the item that we talked about, developers are saying they can't even build affordable housing. So why do we think we're going to be able to do that? We should be allocating a lot more money to rental assistance specifically, because ultimately if we build more rental properties, they're just truly not going to be affordable and people can't keep up with that. So I'd like to see these numbers shifted quite a bit in favor of assisting with rental assistance and those sort of issues, opposed to just building more housing and administrative costs that ultimately actually aren't helping any people.
Any other speaker?
If no, I'll move. Okay.
Question, and maybe just something, I asked a question beforehand. This was, one of the options was non-congregate shelters. And I've heard from stakeholders, particularly those working in domestic violence nonprofit organizations, about a need for more culturally specific shelters or options. And it read to me like we could look at something like that here. And so I would just want to, I don't think this is finalized in terms of being submitted to HUD yet. But at least in the response, written response to question that we got, I want to make sure that we can at least have more conversation on that issue. And I guess if this is the final approval, if there isn't a reason that we couldn't continue this, I'd be okay continuing this to make sure we're able to have that conversation.
You got a deadline, don't you?
There's a deadline, but I'd ask Chris Johansson to come in because I saw him come in earlier. He'd be able to answer the timing. My understanding was also that the way it was written, it still allowed that to occur even after submittal. So let me.
I think that's true, and I think the deadline.
So that you could shift some of these dollars.
While we're waiting for Chris to come in, I had the same question and concern that we have in our roll call that it can be used for certain things, but then in the answer to our question it says that it can't be used for those things. But there were also a few other questions that I had, and I'll probably have to rephrase these to Chris, but it talked about, we specifically outlined a need for, or that our goal was to end family homelessness, but that then we weren't going to be specific about, and this was specific to refugee populations and a few other populations as well, but that we weren't going to be specific in prioritizing any groups, and I kind of wanted to know the rationale behind that decision, as well as we said that we're not allocating funds specifically to supportive services, but that we wouldn't consider anything without supportive services. And I kind of wanted to know why that wasn't sort of specified in the way that we had written it. why we couldn't like have it saying that we're only going to do it if it's permanent supportive, not just permanent.
I didn't time.
Okay, I'll tell you when.
I know there's a time delay, so you'll get a chance to repeat part of that question, but the first question was the timing that this needs to be submitted and whether or not there's flexibility in the submittal to have some of these special populations addressed. Is that a fair argument?
Sure. Well, in the idea of culturally specific, shelter options, non-congregate shelter options.
Yeah, what we're submitting is just the allocation plan. So that's just saying how the funding will be spent. So the RFP would lay out those specific types of populations.
Well, but that's the question, because the allocation didn't include any dollars to address that. So it seems to me that if that's the case, then we're leaving that out of the equation, right? I mean, there's no dollars allocated for non-congregate shelters, so if we wanted to do a shelter, a culturally specific non-congregate shelter for domestic violence victims, or families that are victims of domestic violence, would we be able to do that with this funding, given that the allocation is all for affordable rental housing?
The use, I don't think, can be used for the shelter.
But it says that one of the lists that we left blank was non-congregate shelters.
On the first page in our like whereases, it says home Aarp funds can be used for 4 eligible activities, including production of affordable housing, tenant-based rental assistance and supportive services, homeless prevention, housing counseling, and the purchase or development of non-congregate shelter for individuals and families experiencing homelessness.
Okay. So I thought the response to your question, you had this question what we responded to earlier today.
Right, and it just seemed that it was inconsistent with what the application said.
Okay. We could take another look at it, if that's what you want us to do.
I think, what's the
wanna
timeline, though?
continue
Do you
with that?
have,
Yeah, I know we have time to take another look at it, if you
Okay.
want us to.
What's the deadline?
I don't know right now, I don't.
do you have time?
Yeah.
So if we came back to this on May 9th, we've got sufficient time?
Yep.
Okay.
Some of the questions I posed were, we, as well as like the domestic violence specific population, we also identified ending family homelessness and wanting to specifically focus on affordable units that were big enough for families, and that was kind of like our main goal. But then within that goal, that we were also identifying populations like refugees and people who are also experiencing or harder to house. We had reentry, we had sexual offenders who didn't have any options right now that were 2,000 feet from areas they're not allowed to be in. But then later in the document, we say that we are not intending to give any preference to one or more qualifying populations. So I guess I was wondering how we were going to specifically address these things that we laid out in the same document when we're saying we're not going to give any preference.
Yeah, I know we were planning to talk with the Human Civil Rights Commission just to get more data on what populations we should try serving with this. And that would be a part of the RFP, which it sounds like there's a lot of interest. We could easily bring that back to council to see what populations we're trying to serve with it too.
Okay. And then I did also have a question about the allocation of the administrative services towards the city's administrative costs, because I know that this isn't something that we're going to be implementing ourselves. So we kind of took both that 15% and the 5% for nonprofits. I was wondering why we needed the entire 15%, or what was the rationale beside of allocating that much?
Yeah, the 5% is for operating expenses for nonprofits, so that's not city funding.
Mhm.
The 15% admin, normally we get 10% for any HUD funds, and that's usually on our $1 million grants we get every year. So the 15% is the max. There is a lot of staff time that does go into this. There's ongoing monitoring that happens after the project is built. So every time we do a home contract, there's ongoing monitoring for 20 years that happens with that.
Okay.
So usually what we do, if we don't spend all the admin, we reprogram it out for projects. But if we don't use it, it hits the general fund, so.
So how does that 10% usually work? Like, what does that look like in a 10% project?
For staff time?
Yes.
You mean? We have, the work to do, all the upfront work that we've done already on this, just so all the presentations we've done, all the data gathering, all the analysis, the writing of the grant, the writing of the RFP, the contract management, the ongoing monitoring of the incomes that are in there.
To that 20-year?
Yeah, yeah.
10% covers it usually, though?
Every year, you add on to that.
Okay.
But
maybe if we're going back and looking at this, I could get a more detailed, description of how that 15% is going to be used, or how a 10% is usually used for comparison or something.
yeah, I think just as a policy, I mean, the biggest question always is we'd rather have the general fund pay for it, or we'd rather have the grant pay for it.
Sure. I mean, I'm also just looking at, I would rather have the grant pay for housing if we can get another few units out of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if we're going to come back and look at this, I would just like a more detailed look at that.
I'll move to continue item 54 until May 9th.
I'll second. Unless Connie wants to.
What?
I said I'll second unless Connie wants to, because
No,
we're kind of
that's
talking
okay.
at the same
Doesn't
time.
matter. As long as somebody.
Westergaard agrees to until May 9th to continue.
No. Sorry.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
It was me.
Item number 55 is on the operational agreement with Child Care, Inc. for the operation and maintenance of the child care facility located in the intermodal transportation facility located at 610 Center Street, Council Communication number 22-164. Again, let's open it up for germane comments from the general public. Anyone want to speak on this one? Seeing none, could we have a motion?
Seeing none, I'll move item 55.
Item 55 has been moved and seconded. Linda?
Westergaard votes yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right, item 56, which is on the amendment to the zoning ordinance, Des Moines Municipal Code, Section 134-3.9.2, relating to accessory housing units, AHUs, and permitted zoning districts and regulations. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above, and Table 135-2.22.1. B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by Aaron Olson Douglas, our Development Services Director, and requires 6 votes. Again, let's open it up. Any germane comments from the general public regarding this accessory housing units? Anybody? Yes.
Hi, I'm Wyatt Archer, Ward 3. I just want to say I'm very much in favor for this AHU amendment, but I would also say that there's a couple things still within the ordinance that could be changed. I think that would be a good improvement. For instance, I think the notion of it only being within 0.25 miles of transit, I don't think that really needs to be on there. It can be anywhere without the city. I think that would be a good beneficial for adding in that missing middle housing everywhere throughout the city. And also just having one facade facing the street seems kind of arbitrary. So I think those two things are not getting changed and are, I guess, staying how it is, but those would be additional things that could be changed in the future. But as written, I think it's great. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, Council, thanks for having us. Brad Anderson, 4129 Forest Avenue. I'm also the State Director of AARP Iowa, and it has been no secret that AARP is strongly in favor of AHUs and strongly in favor of what you all have proposed here as an amendment. So first of all, I want to thank you for doing that. Secondly, I'd like to recognize it's such a big deal. Our state president is here as well, Chuck Betts, also a Des Moines resident, so thank you, Chuck, for being here. There are two key reasons why AARP is so supportive of what you all are doing. Number one is, as we've heard today, we need more affordable housing in Des Moines. And clearly, you know, there's not a lot, there are not a lot of empty lots in Des Moines, but we have a lot of backyards, we have basements, we have garages, and we have to think creatively on how to build this additional affordable housing. And this amendment will do it. It'll be a dramatic increase in the zoning allowed for AHUs. Secondly is long-term care options.
Anyone else? All right, could we have a, do you want to speak?
Mr. Mayor, this is Westergaard I would like to speak to.
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
I am supportive of this type of housing, but I've taken this information out to neighborhood associations, and I know that many of you have received questions from neighborhood associations about it. Like, within a transit route, does that include bus route? I mean, like school bus route? Or is it just DART route? What about rental certificates? I just think that we owe it to our residents to provide them a little more information. So I'm not going to vote to have this be the final reading, but I hope that we can just take a step here and at least let our residents know exactly what this covers.
Mr. Mayor?
Is that reasonable?
That's,
I think that's reasonable.
yes.
And I think everyone is fine having additional discussion on this. I will say very clearly, I'm supportive of the policy. I'm comfortable with the policy as written, but I think we can always, many times, we can do a better job educating the public, and I'm happy to keep talking about this issue because I think we had a member of the public who made the comment that this type of housing would be appropriate everywhere in the city. And I think it is. I think while this might seem like a big change, I'm not certain how many units it will lead to being built initially, but I think we need to look at and make it easier for accessory housing units, both for families as well as folks who might be looking to stay in their home but want to add an option for rental income by providing an additional housing unit. So I think it's appropriate. I think some of these questions we can answer pretty easily. For example, the language here related to a transit route, it wasn't any bus, it's a public regional transit agency. So I think that is specifically written to mean a DART route. And I think we can answer some of the questions that folks have and get people comfortable with this and hopefully move this forward because I think it's the right direction to go. So I'm happy to move just the first reading of this. So item.
And if I could just add one thing, Westergaard, I agree, Josh. Ward 2 has a lot of 50-foot wide lots. We have very small lots in our neighborhood. So it's a little bit of a different concern than what other wards might experience. I just would like to see us have some public discussions where neighborhoods, people that are interested can learn more about it.
I would also like to add, since Sue made the trip down here, I would love clarification on the thought behind the facade piece of it. Go ahead. Whoever wants to.
Jason Van Essen, the city's planning administrator. So the one thing to keep in mind is the ordinance actually already today has provisions that allow accessory housing units. So what we're trying to do today is just expand in Des Moines where they're allowed both by right and then also as a conditional use. So the the standard that you're speaking to with regard to where the door is located, it's a design thought to keep the development of these in, kind of a sensitive manner that fits the character of the area. It was adopted with the code originally when it was put into place in 2019. So, it's something through this process, we didn't revisit that. We're just carrying forward all those design standards that we developed and agreed to, and then just, today focusing on where can we allow this more than what we do currently.
Okay. So going off of that, you're okay.
Okay.
I am also supportive of this. I think that this is something that we can continue to tweak and perfect as we move forward and as this becomes more of a thing that people are leaning towards. And I did want to highlight as well that it would, based on this, it would be allowed anywhere in the city. It would just be a conditional use if it was outside of that transit route distance, but I am definitely open to revisiting that at some point in the future, potentially in these conversations about the distance. My only concern is that having lived with multiple people in one household who are of driving age, it gets really congested to have like 5 cars at one unit. I think that's probably part of the rationale behind that distance, but as we're increasing density in our city, we're going to have to look at improving our public transit, and that is going to go hand in hand with approving developments like these. So if it hadn't been seconded, I would second as well. And let Carl talk.
I think Carl. Mayor Connick got a couple questions.
I do.
Jennifer, Jason. So could you please review how the neighborhood associations were contacted about this upcoming amendment?
Sure. Well, first, the conversation around the accessory housing unit is one that we've been having for several years, going back to the comprehensive plan DSM, which was adopted in 2016. And then when we created the new zoning ordinance, we created the mechanism to allow it. And then more specifically to this process, we had a council workshop in December where we discussed a couple of different ways that this could be looked at, expanding it. Took your feedback, then held a hearing that was held before the Planning and Zoning Commission. As part of that process, we mailed agendas, both early agenda and then the finalized agenda to all the neighborhood associations in the city.
So they got a contact 20 days before the P&Z meeting, and then another 10 days before the P&Z meeting, so that all the neighborhood associations were made aware of this upcoming.
Yes, that would have been sent out within those timeframes.
Right, and then there was a register article, in the last 10 days to 2 weeks?
Yeah, the media's covered this, and that also jogged my memory that there was a couple online presentations that we worked with the AARP. Both Mike Ludwig and myself did 2 different separate ones, webinars. We had public attend those as well.
Oh, okay.
So we did that in addition to.
Okay, another question. So if the primary driver here is for familial, someone in the family, like a granny flat, but if someone chose to build an AHU, but to rent that, they would need to get a rental certificate. That's correct?
That is correct, and Sue Ann Donovan's here with me tonight and kind of can speak to that, but they are treated from both the building and rental code. They're treated just like any other dwelling unit. So the same processes, same requirements.
And so then if the owner decided to sell that building or to sell that property, and of course it would include the AHU, then the same guidelines would apply, that would be either a rental unit that the property owner would have to live in, either the large building or the small building.
Yes, that's correct. In the code as it exists today, there is the ownership requirement. So the property owner has to reside in one of the 2 units, and that's regardless of if the second unit is family or just some other person that they're renting to.
All right, and so if it was to be sold, those conditions would still apply.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think sorry, Connie, go ahead.
I just, I'm supportive of the AHU units. The questions I was getting, that's why I'm supportive of saying we need to have another reading, is a number of people that can live in a unit, which I think we have no control over. So I think the concept originally is that usually it's a parent or somebody extra, but it could be how many. So I think that's what I'm hearing, that I think that we need just to answer. Carl, you've brought up a lot of questions, and I think we just need to answer for what we're hearing from the different people that have been emailing us. So I think to do it one more reading would not hurt. I think the concept is great, supportive of it, and it looks like Sue Ann wants to speak to the number.
Mayor, Council, this is Sue Ann Donovan, Neighborhood Services Deputy Director. As far as the occupancy and the number of people, that will be dictated by the floor area, square footage. So if they want to have a single person in the unit, there will be certain requirements for square footage. If they want to have 2 people, it increases to allow more occupancy. So when they come in with the building plans, we'll be looking at the floor area to determine occupancy levels so that we can make sure it isn't overcrowded.
Okay, thank you.
What do you have, what is that? How many square feet for 1, 2, 3? Because I struggle with that, and, as Councilmember Shoemaker pointed out, if you get multiple people in there and multiple vehicles, all of a sudden now we've created another problem for the neighborhood where we've got cars that are, we only have to give them 1 parking spot off site, but we're not requiring anything else. And so those are some of the questions that I've gotten and haven't been able to answer to the residents that I represent. I mean, we have a lot of bigger lots on the south side, unlike, some of the other neighborhoods where, some of these could be built, but we also don't have, the parking could be a potential problem. And I guess I need to know how many, I'm supportive of what Brad is saying and 110%, but I don't know if that's always how these, are going to be used. And so that's where I'm struggling with.
Sure, and I understand that. I haven't calculated with the ordinance if you have 2 people living there or 4 people, should you have 2 off street, 1 for 2 or something like that. But all I can answer to is you have to have certain square footage for each occupant, and we can get into that in granular detail. But you're right, it's not necessarily going to help the parking situation unless you start saying, if you have 4 people, you have 2 off street.
Yeah, even passing the first reading until I would have those, I would be happy to continue it, but there's already motion on the table. I can't be supportive of the questions that I got today and not being able to answer my constituents in a knowledgeable way. I'm sorry, I can't support this. There's probably enough votes at the table. I've sat through many meetings, and I think everyone knows how supportive I've been of the idea. But there's a lot of things that could pop up here that could be detrimental to some of the neighborhoods, and I can't. Until we get some concrete answers, I'll be voting no tonight on this.
I think it would be good to encourage the neighborhood associations and anybody who's been reaching out with those questions to come to the next meeting, since we will have another reading on this. Would this still be in hearings and it wouldn't be like hidden in the second consideration, or would we be able to pull it out essentially to talk about it?
We can leave it outside of the second
I think that would
consideration.
be good, since there's so much interest around this and having conversation. And hopefully we would have some of the answers to those questions for the next one.
And I would encourage all of our residents and council members to please forward us all that input, because I think a lot of us have gotten those emails from some of the neighborhood associations that have a certain set of concerns, and I think they ought to, let's get them all on the table and see if we can't at least get some solid answers for them and continue the discussion.
Mayor, for clarification,
Yes.
the second consideration could happen at the next council meeting, but if you want the hearing to stay open for additional comments, that's important as well. Is that?
I think that I was just saying that the second consideration would just have public comment available in a way that we don't usually do. in the way, we used to have public comment on second
I would be happy, can I modify my motion to allow the hearing to stay open, but to pass the first reading?
It sounds like that's what I'm.
I see the enforcement portion of it, especially after if someone had passed away and the house moved on. I know the enforcement we have now as far as rentals. I can't imagine how the enforcement just seems like it's going to be a nightmare to be able to make sure that, that the person that bought it's living there, and then you've got, another family living in the back. There's a lot of unanswered questions here, and I can't support it right now.
I think, at the end of the day, it's like how many are going to be built to begin with? But I think we have to also be cognizant of the issues that could possibly come up, so that's why I appreciate extending it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll modify the motion to hold the hearing open, but still pass the first reading.
Re-second
Okay,
that?
that's what I wanted to clarify. That you can't do.
That I can't do.
You can either continue the hearing.
Right.
Or you can have a motion to approve with, and then you can include in that motion to have additional public comment allowed, but the hearing's over for zoning purposes.
Okay, well, I'll do the latter.
Okay.
I'll modify the motion so that at the second reading, we specifically plan to allow for public comment so that the public knows that they can come.
Well, but let me ask this, Mr. Attorney, if that in case we get all this input and we decided that there needs to be a little bit of modification, sounds to me you're telling us we can't do that.
If the amendment, if there's an amendment decided after the second, the additional public comment, and the council decides to make a substantive amendment, you'll have to start the process over again.
Right.
But we'd have to determine substantive.
Pardon?
We'd have to determine what
If Westergaard
substantive
could-
was.
I can't hear.
Yeah, Linda, go ahead.
If Westergaard could speak, I just, like I said, I'm supportive of this, but there are too many unanswered questions. Why don't we come forward with an ordinance that says, if you have an ADU and it's 50% of the size of your main dwelling, then you get 2 parking spots. And maybe it has to be provided on the property rather than clogging our street stuff. There's just so many unanswered questions. I guess I would rather see us go back, take a look at it, maybe have a workshop and lay it out exactly what we're doing. But I just heard Sue Ann say, well, she doesn't have that quite worked out yet. Why would we pass an ordinance that's not clear?
I would say I'm open to amendments in the future once we have that bigger conversation. If neighborhoods can come to the next hearing, have that bigger conversation, get some of those answers, see if we do have some of those holes in the ordinance that is laid out. I'm still supportive of the ordinance as we have it, and I also know that there's possibility for amendments in the future. So I would say I would like to move forward with this, and then if it comes to the point where we need to make substantive amendments and then, start with the first reading again, that's fine with me.
Is there a
Yeah, but that
real rush to get?
Are we on some time frame that we have to get this done tonight? I mean, why wouldn't we just continue it and why wouldn't we just continue the hearing until the next meeting? We'll all get comfortable, or we won't get comfortable, and we'll move on. But I don't understand what the first rush is to move the first reading. If you're going to move the first reading, I'm going to vote no, and that's okay. You have the votes to do it, but I'm not going to support it. And it's something that I think it's good for our city. I think it would be beneficial, used the right way, and make sure that we have some of these things in place that we need to make sure that we have in place. But if we're in a big hurry to get this thing passed, well, I mean, continue your motion and let's just move on.
I would be okay continuing the hearing till May 9th. What I don't want to have happen is that this goes into sort of the black box of we need to schedule another work session and we're 4 months down the line, because I think we talked about this at a work session. I think we're pretty dang close. I mean, there are those of us who I think are comfortable with what this looks like. I'd like to get more people comfortable. So if we can get more people comfortable by continuing it to May 9th, I mean, we're going to talk about it on May 9th either way. So I'm happy to change this to a continuance if folks feel better about the process that way. And we'll keep working on it because I think a lot of these questions can be answered. And we'll keep working in that regard. I see Councilmember Voss has.
So between now and our next meeting, Jason and Brad, if you can reach out to other communities who have already done this. You know, we're not on the bleeding edge on this. So there are plenty of cities around the U.S. that have already done this. If we could get some input from other communities, that I think you get a sense of where some of the questions are. Let's ask the other communities, and you know, maybe that would put some of the neighborhoods at ease if we can have that at our meeting May 9th. So
And we encourage
does
them
that
to.
sound possible, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I actually spoke to Cedar Rapids today. They're about 6 months or so ahead of us. They've already adopted this as a citywide initiative. So we certainly can keep doing that and provide more information, and maybe, you know, give a little more of a presentation on stuff that's in the code that I think actually answers a lot of the questions that have been raised, but maybe another opportunity to speak about it would be good.
The square footage, the amount of people being able to live there, number of cars being put out on the street are all pretty key issues in
Sure.
neighborhoods that I think that need to be addressed immediately before
Yeah.
I'm going to be comfortable voting for anything. And those are important, I think, to everyone that lives in our city. I mean, not being educated on some of those items that are going to affect our neighbors would be, I wouldn't be doing my job if I voted on something like this.
Yeah,
So
and we'd be happy.
I'm happy to wait for those answers, and then we can move on the next
Yeah,
council
we
meeting.
can provide a little more information on occupancy load, but I do want to clarify, the code currently already has a parking standard. We're not proposing to change parking standards. The code already has a requirement that you can, if it's a detached structure, that you can only occupy 25% of your rear yard. So there are already a lot of the things that have been mentioned.
Perfect.
We have that information. It's already in our code today. But the one thing that we can do a little more calculating on is from the rental code perspective that Sue shared with us tonight, maybe put some square footages to number of people and provide that to
Exactly.
you.
I think that's the biggest challenge that I've
Sure.
heard from residents. It's not as, you know, grandma's going to live in the back, or grandma and grandpa, or someone else. It's, okay, now I'm allowed to build something in my backyard and rent it out. Okay, how many people can be out there? How many cars are going to be there? And that's where I think some neighbors are starting to say, wait a minute, what are you doing? And that, to me, is something that we need to step back for a minute and get their answers for them.
So I think they've had this in the Twin Cities now for 4 or 5 years, and
That's correct.
Yeah.
I think it may be 2017, maybe
Right.
2016.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that have. Connie?
I was just a real quick question. We already allow it in some parts of the city. So what part of what percentage of the city do we allow it currently, would you say?
We did some rough calculating. I think it's maybe 10%.
10%,
Of the
and this would-
residentially zoned areas now. And
Okay.
the change would allow it by right to, I think, maybe 50%. And then the balance of that would still have the option for a conditional use process. So
So can you expand on that conditional use process and how that exactly works?
So conditional uses are considered by the zoning board of adjustment. We already have that process in our code. There's certain types of uses.
For everywhere in the city, they
Everywhere
can
in
do
the
that
city.
right now.
Exactly. So, I mean, like bars, for instance, are a conditional use. And there's a set criteria that the zoning board of adjustment has to look at. So you submit your application to get a conditional use. Within 30 days, you're on the agenda. We notify everybody within 250 feet of the subject property. And then the board holds a hearing and makes a decision. So a conditional use is something that if you can hit this criteria, it's allowed. But if you can't demonstrate that you do, then the board will deny it. The other nice thing about the conditional use is that we have, it's kind of an enforcement, extra enforcement mechanism where that can be revoked. And that was part of the reason we were kind of offering this idea of kind of a hybrid approach of allowing it as a conditional use with a little more public process in some of the neighborhoods, but those that are closer to our transit corridors, we were going to allow it by right, trying to kind of find that right mix.
So Jason, right now, anywhere in our city, if someone wanted to put one of these in their backyard, they can go and ask for a conditional use permit, correct?
Most properties today would have to actually seek a rezoning, and we had an example of that in the Waveland Park neighborhood maybe a year or so ago. They sought a rezoning, it was approved. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to construct the project yet. But right now, the way our code is written, if it's a zoning district that allows 2 or more units, a duplex, then you are allowed to do it by right. We're trying to take that next step as a community and have this, you know, somewhat allowed by right beyond that, and then also conditional uses as part of the other part of it.
That made absolutely no sense what you just said, Jason.
Okay,
I
so let me take a
apologize.
step back. So the properties are zoned today, like for a duplex or a triplex, you know, that allow 2 or more units.
Okay.
You could build a AHU
Without a conditional use permit.
Without a conditional use.
Right. What
The
about
rest
the
of the city,
units?
you can't get a conditional use today. You'd have to rezone your property and go before the P&Z and come before you. That was that example, and
So you're not able to go to the Board of Adjustment and build one right now?
not today.
Okay. So where does that come into the process of us approving this? Why is that even brought up if you can't do it today?
Well, it's a way to expand. So we were asked, how do we expand this citywide?
Okay.
And so we're saying, let's do it by right if it's if with quarter-mile transit area, but the rest of the city, let's do it as a conditional use.
Okay.
So we're essentially redefining the zoning of single-family lots and saying that if within a distance, and then if not, conditional use.
It's a
So
conditional, yeah.
why couldn't we just do the whole city and you go get a conditional use permit? And anybody can do it wherever, and we do that instead of doing this and part of the corridor.
That's possible, but we were trying to find kind of that middle ground of having places where it made sense to allow them by right. If you're in a walkable area, we're trying to add density and housing options along our transit corridors. And so we felt that that was kind of a nice balance between.
Well, wouldn't that be under consideration if they brought it to the Board of Adjustment where it laid and where it would be? And then we have additional enforcement for the next owner of it.
That would be, yeah, I mean, that could be part of their criteria if it goes that route.
I would say I wouldn't want to add that kind of congestion into like having to process every single time somebody wanted to build one. I think that the by right allows it in a way where it would get approved anyway, because we're setting this description of like the distance from the bus routes. And so I think it makes a little bit more sense just to do it by right in those areas and then conditional use elsewhere.
How many building permits have we had for these units over the last 5 years?
We have one that's under construction, and then there, like I said, there was the one that went through rezoning, but I don't think they ever pulled a permit.
So we've had one, and that's going to overload the Board of Adjustment? We've had one, right? Is that what you're telling me in 5 years?
Right.
Okay.
I'm not making any judgment
With the
on
current,
caseload.
I mean, but you could go.
Right.
Okay.
So the concern that we've heard is that the process discourages. So we were trying to find a way to amend the process to find that happy middle.
How many inquiries have you had over the last 5 years? About a lot?
I couldn't say, but I can tell you.
More than 50, you think?
I just don't.
All right, perfect.
This also cuts both ways in that regard, right? Because how much of an issue?
You're right.
What we want to do is for the folks who have interest to make this option easy so that they don't get discouraged. Because we hear it all the time on all sorts of stuff, right?
That we're not very nimble, we're not.
We do.
We don't ever hear that, do we, Jason?
No, I've never heard that before.
It cuts both ways, but I think this is a valuable discussion. But I think if we want accessory housing units, which I want to be clear, I want accessory housing units, I want to encourage it, and I think it particularly makes sense when you're close to the transit route. So I mean, I think all of these questions are good questions and it's a good conversation, but I want to keep this process moving forward.
Yeah, I will say, I don't want to set up a system where like 5 years down the line when this is becoming a more popular option here in Des Moines, because like we're hearing, this is happening in similar cities or neighboring cities, big metropolises. It's kind of like a big thing that's happening. I don't want to do 5 years down the line, I've set up a system where we then are having this difficult process and we have to start this whole conversation over again in redoing the ordinance.
And I'm not sure that we want to end up with everything going to the zoning board of adjustment either,
understand.
because the next step after that, they're quasi judicial, and it goes, our appeal to that goes to the district court. I don't think that's the way we want to.
So what motion did we end up with?
I think we have a motion and no second to just continue the hearing to tonight.
Yeah, I don't know if I reseconded that version, but I'll resecond that if I need to.
So are we continuing it? Is that what the motion is?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
And that's continued to May 9th, our next
Correct.
meeting, not.
Correct.
So that's what,
And I will be interested in doing the first and final reading as well on that point, since we've had that further conversation on May 9th.
Linda?
I would move to continue also.
Okay.
So, yeah, May 9th would be the first reading of the ordinance, and we're going to have more information.
Yes, ma'am.
It's going to be presented, correct?
Yep.
And that was
Okay.
7 yes. And the motion carried.
All right, takes us to item 57. On the 2022 HMA Residential Paving Program Contract, one resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, and receive and file the bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as Grimes Asphalt and Paving Corporation. Timothy Malakote is the president, $1,054,288.50. Council Communication Number 22-167A is approval of the contract and bond and permission to sublet. Again, let's open up the general public, may make comments only to the plans, specifications, form of documents, and engineer's estimate, or the low bidder designation. Those will be relevant. Anybody want to make any comment on this?
I'll move item 57 and 57A, Your Honor.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded.
Westergaard votes yes.
That's 7.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Item 58 is on the 2022 Neighborhood Sidewalk Program, resolution approving plans, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate received, and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as Hawkeye Paving Corporation, Anthony L. Perkins, president, $1,930,668. Council Communication Number 22-166. A is approval of the contract and bond and permission to sublet. Again, we'll ask if there's anyone in the general public who would like to make comments about the plan, specifications, form of documents, engineer's estimate, and the low bidder designation. Step up.
Taylor Weber, Ward 3. Yeah, I guess I've come and talked about the bidding process before. I know we're kind of boxed in on some things, but again, I noticed we're over city estimate by over $200,000 at this point on this one. I love to see this project. It's in an area that we walk all the time. I'm really excited to see these accessible improvements made. We got a lot of deteriorating sidewalks where we do happen to have sidewalks in this area. Just another shout out that most of that area does not have sidewalks. And then just, again, with the bidding process, again, we're over estimate, and the last time we were over estimate was the project that's now shutting down 2nd Avenue for the next month and causing a lot of heartache. So I'd like to see us maybe make sure we're getting better at estimating as we go, but keep making these city improvements.
I'll move 58 and 58A if there's no one else.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Ask everybody to vote.
Westergaard votes yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Josh and I wish it was 4 million.
Item 59, the Brook Run Park improvements, resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as Caliber Concrete LLC. Jason Martin is the owner. $411,897.50. Council Communication Number 22-168. A is the approval of the contract and bond and permission to sublet. Again, we'll open it up and see if anyone in the general public would like to make comments regarding the plans or the specifications, form of the documents, the engineer's estimate, or the low bidder designation. Seeing none, could we get a motion?
I will move item 59 and 59A.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded.
Westergaard votes yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Item 60 is on the police station exterior masonry repair, a resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file the bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as TNT Tuck Pointing and Building Restoration LLC. Joshua L. Smicer is the member, $244,000. Council Communication Number 22-165. A is approval of the contract and bond and permission to sublet. Again, we'll open it up and ask if anybody has any comments regarding the plan specifications, form of the documents, engineer's estimate, or the low bidder designation.
My name is Adam Callanan. I use he, him pronouns. I live in Ward 3. Yeah, $244,000 for exterior masonry. It seems like a lot of money to spend on what appear to be, from as far as I could tell, decorative work on the police station. I'd like to see the priorities of the city elsewhere. I think there are a lot of things that need more structural work and things that are more of a public safety item. Because we see here literally that the city is prioritizing the image of the police department over public safety.
Come ahead.
My name is Jolene Prescott. I live at 301 3rd Street in Des Moines. Isn't this about a leak? That's what okay, you all have an obligation to take care of city buildings, no matter what's housed in them. So this should be a 7-0 vote, because that is your obligation to take care of our buildings, no matter what's in them.
If there's no more public comment, I just had a quick question. I just wanted to know if there was like a public safety component to this, like if there's going to be danger or something like that. Yep. Like is there other pieces of concrete falling off the building or anything like that? Is it a public safety concern?
Actually, I'll ask Jim Hoff to come in to confirm, or Steve, if either of them, but I've asked that best practice maintenance is taken care of, so okay. I'm hoping to hear that this is routine maintenance.
I would hope there isn't anything falling off the
Yes,
building, otherwise we've waited way too long to make any type of improvements, and it would probably be 3 times the amount of money to fix it, but
Hi.
I would hope that
Jim Hoff,
Jim's
facility
doing his
manager.
job.
Sorry, I heard my name first. Yeah, it is a security, or it is safety issue. We had a piece of the cornice fall off, and it fell over an entrance, so we had to repair that. And it was because of water infiltration around the...
So we might want to take a look at all of our buildings and make sure that that doesn't happen in the future?
Correct, yes.
Great. I'll move 60A.
I'll second it.
Westergaard votes yes.
No, there's no more public
Did we close the public comment, or is there still an
Yeah,
opportunity?
I thought we did, but we asked these gentlemen to make a comment here to question that was asked, obviously, by you.
So public comment is closed? Just wanted clarification, I'm sorry.
Yeah. well,
Okay.
You never asked for additional public comment after the last comment. So I was supposed to have 5 minutes to comment.
I will just say that I have made my position pretty clear on police funding, and I have voted no on an item similar to this previously. I wanted the clarification on if it was a safety hazard. Obviously, I would prefer not spending money on a building for the police, but the building existing as it does, and I don't want to cause any safety hazards. I'm going to vote yes on this today.
Linda?
Yes, I'm sorry. I vote yes.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right, that completes the hearing items. It takes us back to consent. Councilmember Shoemaker, Indira. Item 45 is the exception to the procurement ordinance request for proposal process for good cause, approving the amendment to extend the contract with Permar Security Services for on-site security services and authorizing additional funding not to exceed an additional $25,000. Council Communication number 22-163. Indira.
Yes, I wanted to open this conversation because this is something that we saw previously. I believe it was 150 previously when we were exploring putting security in the hands of the city instead of an outside agency. Since it looks like we have moved away from that, I personally don't see the need for the level of security that we have. I think that it is a barrier for the residents in that it's a level of like disconnect between residents and the council having to come through essentially like airport security or the courthouse level security to come into a city council meeting. I would like us to reconsider this as we're looking forward at, the longer procurement process. With this, I personally I don't have a problem with, having someone at the door who can tell you, where you need to go or help direct you. And if that ends up being a security service of just having someone at the door, but more of a friendly face and not kind of creating this barrier for the public, I would be more supportive of something like that. But as it exists, I'm not supportive of that. And so I won't be supportive of this. I think that we should be considering lowering that security level. I don't think that to the extent that we have it is necessary. I'm not going to make a motion to deny because yeah. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Westergaard votes yes.
Your Honor, that's 6 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
All right, this takes us to ordinances for its considerations, amending Chapter 42-258 relating to sound amplifying equipment in Waterworks Park, Lords and Amphitheater. Council Communication number 22-189. Council, any comments?
Yeah, well, I want to thank staff for their work on this. I know there's, we struggle with the balance on noise issues quite often. The amenity that's been built at Waterworks Park and Lords and Amphitheater is fantastic for our community, and we want to keep that going. There's also been some level of impact, and we're trying to figure out what the right balance is. I know city staff spent some time reaching out, but as we were getting to the concert season had some concerns, and I think that's where this particular item came from. I think, one of the issues is trying to address the noise in those sort of outside of the summer months and during the school year and with weekday concerts. I think that's the big piece of this. I'd heard that there might be some concern about the weekend piece of this and a need for maybe not to change the weekend. And I'd be open to making that change if that would address some concern, but leave the weekday portion of this, recognizing that we're still going to need to work through and try and figure out how we get to the balance over the long run. I think this was as much trying to address things in the short run. So I'm open to further conversation on this, but want to try and move this forward and address sort of that immediate concern for this concert season.
Your Honor, I think Councilman Mandelbaum has some great points. If we can extend the weekend, the Memorial Day, Labor Day, summer hours, but also include the weekends, basically through the end of the year, only Friday and Saturdays, and have the same time. I would, if you had a motion, I would second that. And I think, going forward, we do need to continue to work on sound, noise. I'm not sure how many they got scheduled. I know there's something scheduled for this Sunday. It's a Ukraine benefit that's going to go until 9:30, so I would not want to disrupt that. So I think if we just do the first reading tonight, they'll be fine, be able to do their event on Sunday, and then we can come back the next council meeting and do the rest of it. But I appreciate you putting that motion. I think, we have a considerable investment, the community does, in that amphitheater, and I think that we need to be able to allow them to have concerts and gain revenue, and try to get back some of the costs that's still outstanding. So I'm happy. Did you move it? I'll second it.
So Josh, how does that read now as, would you be able to have a concert on the Memorial weekend? Because this starts?
Yes. This was after, I believe the way it's written is that it is before Memorial Day and after Labor Day. So.
Oh, it says weekend specifically, Labor Day weekend and Memorial Day weekend.
So that would be the Friday of a 3-day weekend?
Yeah, any weekend is the way that I'm taking this motion. Any weekend between now and the end of the year, they would be able to have a concert. So even after Labor Day on the weekend, they would be able to, with this, they would be able to have that.
And the music would.
Until 11.
Until 11.
On the weekends,
Okay.
and during.
Yeah, during the week after Labor Day, there would be no concerts, or before Memorial Day. Or not.
No, it just go to 9.
9.
The
But-
times are more limited before and after, right?
I don't think there'll be a lot of shows
In the non-summer months.
be done at 9 o'clock.
So in the summer months, you could have a show weekdays and have amplified sound until
10
p.m. No change to the ordinance.
Okay.
We're not changing the existing ordinance. What essentially we're doing now is just on those outside of the summer months, so essentially when school is in session, lowering the time on the weekday concerts to 9 p.m.
So I talked to some people that are part of the Des Moines Music Coalition that are working toward Des Moines being declared or qualifying as a music
Not
city.
Des Moines?
As a music city, and so a 9 o'clock threshold just, I mean, they probably wouldn't have anyone take a look at Des Moines. So, you know, we are not Des Moines is what's called a routes city. We're not the weekend destination for a lot of bands. You know, that's Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Louis. So we're really hamstringing the
What do you propose,
concert.
Carl?
Well, I think the expectations that we would have a concert and they would shut down at 9 p.m. on a weekday in May, I mean, there's probably not even going to be anyone taking a look at having a concert here then. September is kind of different because there's more stable weather there. But if...
I think that, well, I'm walking in the neighborhood and I got a lot of people, their one concern was the noise, especially during the school year when they're trying to get younger people. I mean, and it could be back to the whole noise level, which we maybe should even look, I know we had big discussion today about the noise level, and maybe we need to have a broader overview, look at a lot of the noise levels.
I don't want to have science class.
No, but, and having sound engineers come in and really get the right level. But I think that in these neighborhoods, when your windows are rattling, it's problematic. I mean, when you're just, I think that we have to be cognizant of, and it just, unfortunately, the noises, it just goes up. I'm not saying there isn't noise involved, but I think we have to be cognizant of people who are trying to live in the neighborhoods and the time frame of the year, and maybe there's a certain different element you can put in, but right now I would support this.
And so for the weekdays in the summer, it stays at 10 p.m. on weekdays, 11 p.m.
Correct. We're not making changes to the summer, and if we can figure out how we get the balance better with more experience in those summer concerts, like I think we can have more of a conversation on what we might do. I mean, it sounds like it's probably September and that, you know, early October that this is really impacting, right? We're not talking about, I mean, the bulk of this is going to be in the summer.
In September, probably.
I mean, I'm open to further conversation. I'd just like to get this balance right and figure out how we do some of that. And I think.
So I think in the audience is Sam Carroll, who sent us all a letter as an email attachment this afternoon. And if is Sam still there? Yeah. Do you want to just could we have Sam speak to this before we?
Sure. Chris.
So, Sam, how many concerts were there last summer at Simon Estes?
At the Lordson Amphitheater?
Live music
So,
concerts.
I mean, there were several, but most of them were, you know, symphony, ballet, that kind of thing. We had 7 national touring groups, which I think is where, when we get a sound complaint, it's usually one of those shows. So I think that's probably what you're.
On the weekends, or were they during the week?
It varies because, as you pointed out, we're kind of a tweener city at this point, and so getting a national touring act, and Tom Smolik here, who's been in the industry, you know, I'm not, you know, I run the foundation, but music industry is not my expertise. So all the information that we gather is really from the promoters and the sound technicians and things that utilize the space. They're the ones that actually hold the sound permit. But, and I'm not, you know, our intent is never to be disruptive. We went through 2019, as you'll remember, we worked very hard with the city and the police department and the sound technicians to really revise not just the sound for the Lordson Amphitheater, but all the venues in the city. And of course, then 2020 came, and so we didn't get to exercise to see how well that worked. So we had a year of silence. 2021 comes around. We kind of have an abbreviated season which is, last year with the 7 concerts, kind of back-ended because, again, we were COVID effective, so a lot of the bands were booking later, or not booking in the early piece. So to address it, yeah, I mean, we get it, we're parents, right? We have friends that live up there, they text me all the time when it's, when it's loud or too loud in their mind, or, hey, we're enjoying the show on our back porch. But what we did see after the big revision that we went through with you guys was a lot less complaints. The utility didn't get any, we got a couple. I know Sue Ann, talking to her office, that they got some as well. I know, Josh, who lives up there, he certainly has gotten a lot. And we appreciate that. Part of it is, it's a new noise, in the city. And part of it is people just don't want any noise. But we did make significant adjustments. And the letter I sent today was actually coincidental because we didn't know that this was going to be on the docket until a reporter called me yesterday. But what we'd been working on was that discussion that we had in January and February about it, and some of the things that we've looked into that were suggested to us, and what we think is a way to, again, to continue to working for the right balance of making this all work.
So can you just go back to your last comment? No one, staff or anyone, reached out to you and said that we're looking at changing this?
No, we were aware of, if a reporter hadn't called me yesterday morning, I wouldn't have known it was even on the docket.
Okay. How does this affect the schedule that you have for this year coming up? And maybe Tom can help us with.
Sure. Tom Zmolik, and I am the venue manager for the amphitheater. Just to put things in perspective a little bit, we had 7 concerts last year. 3 of those fell after Labor Day weekend on a weeknight, and all 3 of those would have been canceled had we had this change to the ordinance in place. I checked with our main promoter today, and we have lots of offers out there for shows this summer. We've only announced 3 so far. A lot of them are after Labor Day. A lot of them are on weeknights. So although you think that it would be nice if the season was from Memorial Day to Labor Day, that's just not the way it is. We always bleed into September, October. That's the standard season. We rarely have anything before Memorial Day, and very few things in June, actually. So, if we were to put this in place, or if you were to put this in place, it'd be very punitive to our main promoter. He has offers out there pending, and honestly, he may not be able to pull them out at this point. He's put them in good faith with timing. I think that in general, we can all agree that 9 o'clock is a pretty early shut-off time. We would have to be starting shows before people even got off work to be able to accommodate that. And
So you planned on ending them at 10, because that's how the ordinance?
That's how the ordinance read. That's what we put offers in with that understanding. 10 o'clock on weeknights, 11 o'clock on weekends.
That sure seems reasonable. I mean,
well, and it's, Josh, your comment that you wanted to get ahead of this before concert season, it's too late for that. Everything, we're booking stuff for 2023 at this point. And the fact that we were just completely caught off guard and surprised by this, and didn't find out about it until yesterday and today, we really didn't have any time to put any comments together. So,
if I could, I don't know if you had a question.
Well, my question: how many potential offers are out there between post Labor Day that this would impact?
I can't answer that because that's what our main promoter does. He just told me several today. He told me one specific that's just about to be confirmed that he said is absolutely would have to get canceled.
I'm sorry, absolutely what, to cancel?
Would have to get canceled. The art, you know, I've been in the industry for 30 years. Artists just are not going to play in towns where they have to be done by 9 o'clock.
No.
That's not a, you know, we're supposed to be a 24-hour city. 9 o'clock is not a 24-hour city.
Some people don't go out until 9 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah. Not us, Connie, but some people don't.
I mean, there was at least one show that didn't start till 9 o'clock last year.
Yeah, and you know, we're one of the last surviving outdoor venues right now too, which really concerns me. I mean, we had, you know, Simon Estes Amphitheater with ongoing forever bridge repairs is unusable. Brenton Skating Plaza, where we used to do a lot of shows, the Park and Rec took that over and decided not to put the canopy back up, unusable. All of a sudden, you know, Waterworks and Riverview are the only two venues that anybody can play outside at. And so we're definitely concerned that, you know, we're becoming more and more restrictive here. It seems like it's a war on sound, a war on music at some point.
So,
We don't
so
want to
Tom,
go back to Dead Moines.
yeah.
Right.
So,
We've
so
done a
Tom,
lot.
would there be options that a band would play in Waukee or?
Sure. I
place
mean,
out-
every suburb around the city here is building their own amphitheater. All of a sudden, it's going to be, you know, a band that should have played at the Waterworks, the Lauriston Amphitheater, is going to be playing in Waukee or Johnston or Ankeny, for God's sakes.
Make a couple comments. Firstly, that the points that you brought up, Carl, like these are really important. I think for our like city's cultural development, growth, health, however we want to look at it. But that also, in my lifetime, having gone to concerts, like almost everybody that I know my age is driving to Minneapolis, searching for the Minneapolis date, driving to Chicago if there isn't a date in Minneapolis, driving to St. Louis for concerts. That's just what you have to do living in Des Moines. And I do think it's important. Okay, sorry. I do think it's important to, you know, to become a city that has more of these venues that are viable. We learned a lot about sound this morning, and also I heard horror stories of how loud it is, and it's in the whole neighborhood and all of these things. And so I want to be sensitive to that as well. I wasn't going to bring this up, but I didn't know we were going to have as much discussion about it. But there was conversation about it should have been faced the other way, and we should just take a couple cranes and turn it so it's faced toward the forest area. And I mean, like, I'm willing to explore that if that's a viable option. But
I don't think it's viable, but you're right.
I'm just saying, show me the numbers. But what I did want to point out, and I didn't get a chance to read your letter from earlier, but I just skimmed it just now. Right at the end, you say none of the concerts were cited for sound ordinance violations. The logs demonstrated that levels exceeded the 114 DVC level only momentarily, rimshot, sound spike, etc., but never for prolonged interval. This is the thing we were talking about earlier with the peak versus max, and so I think this might be a conversation again about how we're measuring our sound. And just in general, to conclude my comments, I would like to find that balance, figure out, you know, what number we want to set it at, make sure that we're clarifying if we're talking about peak or max, figure out the dates that we want to talk about. But it's very exciting to me to hear that we have bands that want to come to Des Moines, because I haven't ever in my life really been able to go to a concert in Des Moines. I think once or twice, maybe. Valor Ballroom and Wells Fargo Arena, like big ones. So that's my thoughts.
So, you know, we totally get that you're getting complaints from your constituents and from, you know, through Sue Ann's office and such, but it's such a minority of people that are complaining. It's low numbers. For every 7 people that you have complain for a concert, we have 7,000 people there that are having an increased lifestyle because of it. So I guess it's, you know, where is that balance? Who are you going to listen to? We would be very happy to bring in huge numbers of people to support the amphitheater and support music in Des Moines and show you that, but I don't think that we need to get to that point.
Thank you. All right, do we have a
Where do we land?
motion here? What are we doing?
I don't know, I'm struggling because during the week, if we're going to lose out on concerts, then that's not okay.
Do we want to
I'm not sure if I can be supportive of this change, losing out during the week if they've already have concerts booked. So, I mean, I'm struggling with that. I want to be sensitive to the neighbors.
If we can, I mean, I don't want to have something canceled, although it would have been nice if this conversation, I mean, I think staff tried to start it in January.
First they heard about it.
Well,
yesterday.
Well, we'll have it. I think, I mean, I'm happy if you can get me between now and the next reading what exactly the dates are that we have offers extended. I don't want to impact things. I mean, I'm okay creating some flexibility, but then moving forward with the 9 p.m. If the rest of council doesn't want to do that, we can figure out a different way to work on this.
Can we do 10 o'clock from still September and October? Because it sounds like that's when, I mean, the weather, I mean, it snowed yesterday.
But
Nobody's going to book a concert in April and May. So we're talking about, it sounds like, four weeks in September and probably 2 weeks in October at the most, because then it's going to start maybe getting cold, and I don't know how many you're going to book after October 15th. So, I mean, we're talking really 6 weeks that we got to really compromise during the week and possibly be able to extend the 10 o'clock curfew during the week. Because I think that's the problem, is that I'm looking at Sam and Tom, that's really the problem for you guys, is the during the week after Labor Day.
The 10 o'clock is not a problem, the 9 o'clock is, right?
The 9 o'clock's a problem. during
So
the week.
is there something we could do that, so it's not like in September primarily, that it would be every night? You could only limit it to a certain amount of nights?
Well, you'd only have one per week, I
Well,
would think, if even that.
I don't know how many you have.
We only had 25 hours worth of concerts, 20 hours of concerts last year. 20 hours.
But the goal would be to have how much, so, you know,
Well,
it could be.
But that was coming out of a pandemic where
Right.
the season was late, right? I mean,
I'm just offering it as an alternative.
That's our typical
How many concerts you think you're going to have a week? He's got to come up here. My head hurts. How many concerts you think you're going to have after Labor Day during the week? Like if
I'm going to guess if it
Sunday through
stays
Thursday.
true to last year, 3 to 4.
per week?
No, the whole time.
Yeah. So, but you would only maybe
During
have-
that 6-week period, 3 or 4 concerts.
Would you have 2 in 1 week?
Probably not. I mean, you know, sometimes the stars align and it's a Friday, Saturday, but not very often.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the weekends. I'm talking about Sunday through Thursday. Would you have 2?
Still,
Sunday
same
through
thing.
Thursday?
Could be a Tuesday and Wednesday back to back, and then nothing for 3 weeks.
So Tom, if we were to let the neighborhood associations know in advance when these concerts are, so people can be prepared, whether it's they're not going to have a barbecue in their backyard that night or something like that.
Or they might want to have a
Free
barbecue.
concert, that's what I'm saying.
Again,
Depends who's playing.
I travel in different circles, but I talk to way more people that enjoy our concerts that live in the neighborhoods because they get free shows than complain about them.
So just to let the council members know, this is the revenue from the events are going to help pay down the remaining balance on the
loan.
Ruan connector.
So Josh had asked for answers to specific questions. It seems like we haven't found the balance yet, so are we continuing? Or what are we doing? First reading?
I mean, I'd be happy to do first reading and modify, or if we, I mean, with the modifications we talked about, are those things, well, one, we made some changes already, but are those things we could do with a first reading, or do we need to continue?
This is not a hearing item, so you can make those changes.
In the second? Okay.
So we just leave it alone after Labor Day and use our existing ordinance that we have, and we would really just, during the week, in the summer, we're gonna, is that what we're changing during the week in the summer? Until 9?
No, we're not changing the summer at all. We're not
Okay.
touching the summer at all. The only change would be after Labor Day during the week, and we would make exceptions for anything that is already where there are offers out for this year.
But what about in 2023? Because obviously, if the market is going to say they're doing half of the shows during the week after Labor Day, if they had 7 shows and you're telling me you've already got maybe 3, that's almost half. So if we change the ordinance for 2023, well, then we're kind of cutting our own throat here, because they've got to pay back a loan to the city.
I guess-
And that's how they're going to generate.
Well,
the
and
revenue.
the other thing that's going to happen, you're going to pick up concerts in the middle of the week that are going from Chicago to Denver.
Correct. I mean, that's when most of our shows happen
And
because
then
of that.
maybe Kansas City to Minneapolis or something, and
Omaha,
especially midweek.
Chicago, right.
And maybe they'd like to also make a quick stop in Omaha or something, so they could get a couple shots in between weekends.
Correct.
And so those guys are still booking.
Yeah,
And-
But
we
they
just want to make sure they're not playing in Waukee.
But they
Yeah.
won't book if it stops at 9.
I agree.
And
No.
they're probably not going to book
No.
for 2023 if they know that the guideline is
9
9 o'clock. It's just not going to happen.
And that's all part of the good faith offers that go in. I mean, we have to tell them what time they can play till. And, you know, honestly, we're already stretching things by being done at 10 o'clock on weeknights and 11 o'clock on weekends. Going the other direction just is not going, it's not going to fly.
Have you made adjustments in your sound? We had that discussion earlier in the day, and
That was something I wanted to bring up as well, and I know this is going really long. I'm sorry, y'all. Like, we'll get to public speaking in a second. I know, but I think that the reading that we put on there, like with the conversation we had earlier, like 114 peak made sense, but 114 max really didn't, and that it was actually like super loud to do 114. That was like horrendously loud, and so I don't know if we have the right number on there as well. That was kind of my concern that I was thinking about.
I mean, I think that's part of the balance, and I think there was at least one show where last year, I mean, I think the bulk of the complaints, even though they came from multiple shows, were essentially generated by one show, and then everything after, people were more sensitive because the experience from that one show was sufficiently out of whack that people were very sensitive and concerned.
And we have a very strange, unique venue that is affected by the weather, the way the wind blows. You know, we can predict how many complaints you're going to get by checking with Ed Wilson that night. I mean, it's like if the weather's
The wind's blowing out of the
wind's
south.
blowing out of the south, you're going to get complaints. That's just the way it is. It doesn't matter who it is. We can, you know, we have a constant monitoring system. We have a computer system that we've implemented that takes continual sound readings throughout the entire concert. I think there's also maybe a misconception that we've gone past our time limits in the past. We haven't done that a single time for more than, you know, we haven't gone a minute past our required times the entire time we've been open. And we have the sound monitoring program to prove that. So, you know, if people are complaining, oh, this went till, you know, midnight, and that's just, none of that's true.
No, we would all hear it. You hear it
Right.
everywhere. I mean, it's not, that's, I haven't heard that you've gone over. I mean, obviously Josh has gotten the most complaints, and
Sure.
he has a motion. If no one seconds it, then I'll make a motion just to leave it as it is, and we'll move on. I think we've had plenty of discussion.
What was the motion that's on the table right now?
I did second it.
Okay.
What's happening?
Can I withdraw that?
It went on for so long, you kind of forgot.
Sorry.
I think that there is a balance to be found here. I just don't think we
What do I
found
gotta
it.
do, Jeff?
Right, I don't think we found the balance either, but I don't want to completely walk away from this, but
I'm going to withdraw my second.
Okay, what's the motion? To go with it as written here?
Yeah.
no.
And to have it.
We're trying to figure out,
I think we should figure it out and then try again. That's my thought, is that there's so many pieces of this that we don't have solidified. There's still questions that are out there that it would make more sense to find the balance that we want and then pass that.
Wasn't it to find out what has been booked or what is out there?
That was the question. that was
I do have one more thing that I need to point out, is that if this continues and then we're still talking about it a month and a half from now, when I said it's too late already, it's going to be way too late at that point.
You're not
And
looking at anything.
yeah, I mean, and we already have offers out there that are going to have to be rescinded, and
Is 2 weeks going to affect that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, I mean,
they're
it's
probably late
go time
on
right
booking
now.
Stuff, so.
Well, if I'm correct, there's a motion on the floor, but not a second.
Right, I withdraw my motion to support, just because, I mean, it's
You
not going
withdrew
to.
your second.
I withdrew my second because I feel like during the week, we need to give them the option after Labor Day to have these concerts. And you know what? I'd like to see us go through another full, without a pandemic, concert season. Let's see how it lays out, and we can talk about it next winter and maybe figure out and give them enough time, bring them to the table, and then we can figure it out.
So if we extended it to 10 PM, that would be what we already have. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah, it's already at 10 PM.
It's already the same thing. I mean,
It's already at 10 PM.
Right.
11 PM on weekends. The only thing we were talking about was a couple months.
The 6 weeks essentially, because there weren't going to be concerts otherwise.
pretty much.
Changing that from 10 to 9. But that's something that we're now debating. Okay. I don't know.
Okay, so Josh, do you still have a motion?
But I do, there's no,
There's no second, so I can just make a motion to leave it as it is if nobody seconds it, and we'll just move on.
Well, nobody seconded.
I thought I had seconded.
Then it just dies? and
Okay,
then
now Connie has a second.
I thought I had seconded it.
No, it was me that.
I had Gatto as a second.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was-
sorry. Okay.
Okay, so do we have a second for Joe's motion?
No, we don't need it because it just stays the same, Jeff said. So if no one seconds Josh, this item's died and
Is
we
Connie
move
seconding
on.
Josh?
Okay.
She did not. It was
I'll
me.
Connie, are you
I'll
seconding?
second it and let's vote on it.
Okay.
I don't think I'll put the votes
Linda?
for the first.
So are we voting to make the changes or are we voting to just leave
You're
it
voting
alone?
To make the changes, right?
It's the first.
It's the first reading.
It's the first reading. We'll come back and work on it at the second, but the motion, I mean, I don't know that we'll.
All right, let's regard them vote yes.
I think I hit no.
All right, the motion fails 5-2.
All right, let's move on. There you go. You tried.
That takes us on, so it stays with it. Our next item is the request to speak from our citizenry, and again, for those people wishing to speak this evening under the public speaking agenda, we will be calling on those who have registered to speak. All speakers must comply with the rules regarding their names and addresses. They will not. Each of the 11 speakers this evening will receive 2 minutes each to make their comments. Please keep your own time, because at the end of the 2 minutes, the clerk will announce time, and the speaker's mic will be closed, and we'll move to the next speaker. We want to hear from all of our residents. We encourage the residents to be respectful of others' viewpoints that are different from their own. While you may certainly disagree with that viewpoint, I want to remind everyone that the council's rules provide that any comments that are slanderous will result in that speaker being barred from further. As presiding officer, I'll determine whether the comments are slanderous or not. Fair warning, arguing about those determinations on any matter is not permitted, and doing so will be considered disruptive and result in the speaker being barred from further comments and being required to leave the building. So that rule's same as it has been, and let's start right in. Our first speaker is Adam Callanan.
Hello, my name is Adam Callanan. I use he, him pronouns, and I live in Ward 3. First, I'd like to talk about COVID. COVID is still happening. It seems like we might be partly in a better spot now, but there's still a lot of people affected. There's a lot of people also dealing with long COVID, and there's still a lot of risks, and I think we need to be more upfront about that. One way we could do that and acknowledge that is having a virtual option for city council meetings. We've had these, it feels like almost a year, I think we're a few months off of that, for a long time that we've had these in-person meetings without a virtual option during a pandemic when we know that there are people who want to speak but can't because they can't come here and risk getting COVID for various reasons. And also, since masking was dropped in City Hall, it's even more at risk for folks. And we also really haven't seen on this agenda or recent agendas any public programs to assist people with COVID. We have a lot of COVID funds, and it seems like we're not doing all that we could do to have any sort of public programs around testing or giving any kind of stimulus to folks that are dealing with COVID and can't leave their homes right now. We'd also like to talk about DMPD, trigger warning for folks with police violence. We know that at least 3 councilors requested an item to be put on the previous agenda regarding DMPD, but somehow it didn't end up on the agenda, even though it had support of multiple council members, and instead, the mayor broke procedure to announce that there would be a future work session topic instead that was also didn't seem to be the same thing as the agenda item. I hope my confused tone comes across there, because I don't even know what happened. I don't want to pretend I know what happened, because there's just no transparency between what happened there to the public. And it's just bizarre to me that the city council is still willing on something they know is so controversial and something that people have been fighting for years to just try to hide it from the public, seemingly. I don't even know if it's being hidden or if it's just being handled confusingly, but there needs to be transparency about what's happening moving forward. We've seen still no accountability. We still need to defund DMPD, fire Wingert, and fire Sanders. I wanted to talk about the noise pollution.
Natalie Harwood. Not here. Tara Kramer. Bridget Peterson.
No.
Amy Lubert.
Yeah, that's all right.
If that, you can take it out if you want. You hold it if you don't mind.
Awesome. All right. Hi, my name's Amy Lubert. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Ward 1. So I was here during your January 24th City Council meeting where Mayor County made a proclamation for Black History Month, where you stated within that proclamation, quote, calls our attention to the continued need to battle systemic racism, and that we need to, quote, continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, compassionate, and equitable for all. These words have stuck with me because they mirror what I want for our city. But since that January 24th proclamation, I've seen multiple videos released by CCI showing unwarranted and unprompted police violence against community members, including the most recent video that was released on March 31st, where a white police officer is beating a Black community member at the corner of 6th and University. It's unacceptable, and we deserve better from those who are paid to, quote, protect us. And I know you've heard from the community for years about racism within our police community, or police department, and your negligence has consequences. I'm sure you know that in the past week, a Black man named Patrick Leoya was murdered by a white police officer in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And while you maybe don't care that this didn't happen in our community, it resonated with me deeply, not only because a Black man was killed in our country at the hands of the police, but also because the city community members of Grand Rapids have been telling their leadership for years about the problems within their police department. Years. As I learned about their fight for justice, the parallels felt all too similar to what's happening here, and we deserve better. Black and brown community members here in Des Moines deserve to not live in fear that having a license plate issue will result in the loss of their life, which is what happened to Patrick in Grand Rapids. We need a community review board, an independent third-party investigation, and a change in leadership in this police department. It is time for these items to be on the agenda so we can see where you stand on battling systemic racism, like in that proclamation.
Taylor Weber.
Taylor Weber, Ward 3. It's really messed up that you closed public speaking on item 60 earlier after just 2 public comments in less than 2 minutes. That violates your own rules. It's the only item on DMPD on the public hearing. Just coincidence, I'm sure, on all that. It's really disappointing. I'd really like to uplift the comments that have been made so far, all super appropriate. I'm actually going to point to a couple things. I got to walk in with an individual this evening who's attending her first meeting and had to have her purse searched downstairs just to enter City Hall. We spent $25,000. You guys just approved to spend more. We spent $240,000 for public safety because we're worried about a cap falling off a police department. 2 Lincoln High students were hit on 9th Street this week after an accident. They were on the sidewalk. They were doing everything they should be. This is an issue that individual in our community, a child lost their life in 2016 in this exact area. It seems like a lot better use of public safety money than masonry that may or may not be falling or issues with buildings. There's many areas in this city that we actually need to address public safety, and it's not more spending with the police. Between on 9th Street, between up on Merle Hay, where people just fly to the interstate in a 30-mile-an-hour area, and we aren't doing anything to actually enforce public safety in these instances. It's really disappointing that you all had a public works or a work session today and did not address a single thing that the mayor directed city staff to do. I guess my question to you, Mayor County, would you directed city staff to do something and they did not follow up on your direction to hold the work session for the items you brought up? I just didn't know what the consequences for staff not following through with what they're directed might be, and how we can ensure that we actually have the needed community discussion around these items that are affecting all of us in our community, not just our black and brown neighbors. So I really urge you guys to actually address these.
Jolene Prescott.
My name is Jolene Prescott. I live at 3013 3rd Street. What is the deal with the police that we have to criticize them for every little thing? This is what just bugs me. We can't fix a building because the police are in it. Think, people. Some of this stuff, I've been listening to all the stuff coming from over here, and it's starting to sound like and look like and especially smell like a vendetta against the police department. If we're going to have any kind of group like oversight, we cannot have it based on that vendetta. We need to have a time when we can learn and work together. I'm going to tell you something. The police carry a gun so I don't have to. And I appreciate that more than they will ever know. I'm just sick and tired of hearing stuff. I think if we have a group, if it's going to be some kind of oversight, it needs to be that we're going to look at what really needs to be changed, and not somebody's little small opinion of what needs to be changed. It needs to be the whole community, not just a few people in a room. Because I know there are people out there that appreciate the police, and I know sometimes Sometimes you got to get down and dirty with somebody. You do. I mean, that's the way life is. Sometimes they got to do it. Yep. Well, this is my opinion.
Sit in a debate.
And I am speaking. Shut up. Thank you.
Gene O'Donnell.
Good evening. My name is Jean O'Donnell, and I'm a resident of Ward 3 and a member of the Iowa CCI Racial Justice Team. Our police are given many legal protections under Iowa and federal law to use their discretion in making decisions on how to handle interactions with the public. For example, the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights in our Iowa State Code and Supreme Court decisions upholding pretextual stops. Our legal system has chosen to err on the side of the police, and that's fine. But when judgment errors are made by the police, it should be in an unbiased way, and those poor judgments, when they occur, should be distributed randomly among all groups of people. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing that these errors in judgment have racial disparities associated with them. And we've presented this evidence to you. Our police deny there is a problem, and it's a very dangerous situation, I feel, especially in these times, because I believe our democracy is in peril, to let an armed force operate with impunity. We need meaningful civilian oversight of our police department, and you all should be demanding this. Even if there weren't racial disparities, we should welcome and expect police accountability to the residents of this city. The leaders of our city who have a problem with this should find other employment. While national accreditation of the DMPD may be laudable to pursue for other reasons, it is too broad an endeavor to meaningfully address the abuses to our residents caused by this lack of accountability. I took a look at the CALIA process, and there are 2 levels of accreditation, with the basic level having 180 standards to evaluate, while the advanced accreditation has 450. It does not seem likely to me that the resources needed to successfully complete this process will result in accountability.
We have our next speaker, Viola Perry.
Mayor, council members, Viola Perry, CCI Racial Justice Team, Ward 1, 50310. At the last council meeting, Mayor County, you said you would direct the city manager to schedule a city council work session no later than next month to address 2 key issues. In part, you said, and I quote, "As mayor, I share in the community's interest to strengthen the Des Moines Police Department's operation and policy while maintaining the public safety of our residents and what they expect and what they deserve. We expect a third-party investigation of the Des Moines Police Department, not an accreditation process that could take up to 36 months to meet over 480 standards." Just a little research there. We deserve for our interaction with the police to be fair and equitable for all residents in Des Moines. We expect you, City Council, to work with our community to establish a community review board. 4 years we have asked for this, and for some of you as council, you continue to delay. We deserve full transparency and accountability of our police along with citizen oversight, and not tuck away issues with hopes that the public will forget. We expect replacement of leadership over the DMPD. We deserve a leader who is willing to lead, address, and correct problems within the department, and to be willing to really work with our community to better listen and respond to our concerns in a way that can move all of us forward in a positive manner. We expect you, our council representatives, to truly hear what we have repeatedly asked of you. What we deserve from you is to stop redirecting,
delaying processes, or deflecting from the things we have asked for in hopes that we will still settle for the least impactful solution. Understand, what we expect and what we deserve may mean something different to you, but we are clear and won't stray from the things we expect and deserve.
Chris Robinson.
My name's Chris Robinson. I live in Ward 2. I'm a member of Iowa CCI. Over the past 2 months, videos have been released exposing police misconduct to some of our most vulnerable people. CCI, Just Voices, and Surge has now released 3 videos of excessive force by Des Moines Police Department under your watch. 2 people were seen walking and seemingly doing nothing, were approached by Des Moines police officers and assaulted without provocation. In the 3rd video, an intellectually challenged man who had prior experiences with Officer Buttons instantly became agitated, walked away, only to be followed, body slammed, and punched by the officer several times. And the police chief said it was justified. When the community saw it, we were horrified by the misconduct and poor judgment of this officer. At this time, a change in our leadership of the Des Moines Police Department, our chief has failed this department, our community, and our city. We are tired of being told there will be an investigation and nothing happens. We can assume this because we have been down this road many of times. The only thing that happens is the hope that the community will forget, but we won't. Please, fire Chief Wingert.
R.J. Miller.
R.J. Miller, Ward 1, running for House District 34. I ask for community control of police, and so the community will have a say in how policing looks within our community, and a People's Council will be set in order to investigate police misconduct. I am not a reformist. I am an abolitionist. The history of policing is racist, and it was designed to protect and serve the rich and the powerful. So anything that is anti-black, anti-brown, or anti-indigenous, it must be destroyed, and it must be transformed into something that is designed to protect and to serve our community, and not designed to protect property. In 1619, we were that property. It's not up to the people to change the perception of the police. It's up to the police to change that perception. And next time you want to give, what was it, $500,000 to creative divisions, make sure you're bringing the community to the table, because there's a lot of people in the community that are out here trying to be preventative and stop violence, not just creative divisions or these other individuals that are getting on the camera. You know what I mean? We out here doing the real work. The work is not done on camera. The work is done in the streets. Make sure you're inviting the community. Stop bringing these sellouts and all these individuals to pacify our movements. We're not listening to none of that goofy stuff. The radicals are stepping up, and our community is tired. We're tired of the injustice. We're tired of the police brutality. We want accountability. We're watching, and we're going to be setting up cop controls to monitor police misconduct, and we're going to be holding them accountable. And we're going to be holding city councils accountable as well. And what was that you said, Linda? You said that we should support the police. Maybe you should take a step in our shoes. You know what I mean? Try being black for a day, and maybe you won't talk like that. Because you don't know our experience. So don't speak for us or speak for our people. Maybe the police are nice to you. They're not nice to us. They're beating our ass. They're choking us. They're beating us. They're harassing us over weed. Yeah, that part. But that's all I got to say.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion, receive and file 62A through K.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Appreciate your input. Before we adjourn tonight, I'd just like to take a moment and, as has been requested, give everybody sort of an update on some of the things we talked about last time, the upcoming meetings relating to the operations and policies of our Des Moines Police Department. On April 27th, we're going to have a city council work session. The independent consulting group Public Works LLC is going to issue their report on law enforcement and data collection specific to the DMPD. This organization has consulted cities throughout the country and worked hand in hand with our citizen-based police in practice review committee, the PPRC, that was formed 2 years ago that's been working on this. The Public Works LLC report, based on more than 100 interviews with residents and local leaders, will recommend the initial steps necessary to move toward greater community engagement. Tentatively, during the week of May 16th, a city council work session will discuss the expanded role of the PPRC as an advisory board. During that meeting, we will also address the scope of work needed to attain that national accreditation and its benefit to our residents. Right now, we are reviewing and vetting several qualified contractors that we asked the city manager to look into, who specialize in police management services, including accreditation. My expectation is that during our June 13th meeting, the council will consider awarding a contract for this independent third-party consultant so that we can begin the process to thoroughly analyze DMPD's policies, training programs, and principles. In closing, over these past 2 weeks, I've heard from residents and from our council members and staff, and I want to thank everyone for their input on this issue, and I'm encouraged by these latest developments and confident that we're moving in a positive direction and forthright manner. Without a doubt, we have a lot of work to do, and I am hopeful that over the next 2 months, we will see movement that assists our police department in best serving the Des Moines neighborhoods and all of our residents. And hopefully that gives everybody an update, and I want to thank the council for your continuing work, and let's stay focused.
Make a motion to adjourn, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? We sit adjourned. Thank you.